This is Sister Cecilia Joy, a Franciscan Sister of Christian Charity, and today we're here with Paul Hillebrand. And what's really exciting is oftentimes when you sing music in your hymnals at church, you wonder who's behind this music. And this is one of the faces of liturgical music today. So thank you, Paul, for being with us.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me. Looking forward to it.
And so, Paul, you have quite the life experience. You grew up in Illinois?
Yes. I grew up in Evanston, Illinois, and then I moved to Champaign for a couple years when my dad had a job down there. And then I came out here to go to school at Arizona State. And it was quite an act of God, I think, that I ended up down here. I was practicing in for a talent show at Illinois Summer Youth Music Program in Champaign, Illinois. And the director there was from Arizona State University that summer. And he'd been there when I was a freshman, and he also was there when I was in all-state choir in Chicago. And I've always wanted to be in his choir ever since I was a freshman in high school. And I was practicing for a talent show, and he walked in the room. I didn't even know he was there. And he was behind me, and I'm singing, and just once in a lifetime, a man knows a moment, one wonderful moment when fate takes his hand. So I sang that, and afterwards he, oh, bravo, that was beautiful. You have a nice instrument. He said, where are you going to school? I said, well, I'm going to University of Illinois, and I'm living at home because that's where my folks were at the time. And he said, well, I just had a guy from Texas turn down a scholarship, 4 years, out-of-state tuition, full ride. Do you want to come? And that sentence changed my life. So that's the long answer, but that's how I ended up out in Arizona, and then I got involved with the Newman Center there, and was very fortunate to be involved with Dominicans that were there, and started writing music, and then was able to be involved in a band that went around the country singing for youth groups and things like that called Trinity. Tim and Julie Smith from here and are also now in Minneapolis. They were involved with that, as well as Tom Booth was in for a while in our group. We were just a bunch of little young juniors and seniors in college at that time. And then from there, just got involved with NALR, which was headquartered here in Phoenix. And then from there, showed them some of my music, and then ended up being able to record a couple albums with NALR and then OCP when they were bought by OCP. And I have a couple on my own, so I've got about six CDs.
6 CDs. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's like your creative process like? Because I've, for those who are maybe interested in checking out some of your songs, you can YouTube Paul Hillebrand, and you'll see you can listen to a lot of his work there. If you want to purchase any of it, you can purchase it through OCP, or you have a website, Paul Hillebrand.
PaulHillebrand.com, just my name, PaulHillebrand.com.
Yeah, and some of your favorite songs, I love like Embrace the Cross. I don't know why, it's just one of my favorite songs. And then We Know Your Presence, Lord, is a great Eucharistic hymn. I love, like, I was listening to that today, and I was like, oh, I can't believe I'm actually interviewing this guy. This is fantastic.
Well, that's fun. I'm glad you appreciate those. Every one of those has a little story, you know. Embrace the Cross was written for a Lenten theme one year, and we actually asked people to go ahead and bring crosses from their house. And they put them up on the back wall of the church all over. And it was a very beautiful thing because there were so many different sizes, so many different special crosses that each person has in their lives. And for some, it was easy to say, well, I want that cross. That's a beautiful cross. And others would say, no, that was a hard one for me. I don't know if I could do that. And we had to look through that. So the idea of embracing a cross, that we all have a cross to embrace, is important. And that's where that song came from. We Know Your Presence, Lord, is something that we do as a song of praise. Originally was written for that, and then I add some verses so that it could become a communion song. Right at the end of communion, this is done in some communities. In the rite, it talks about a song of praise after communion. And for many people, it means it's a meditation song, or it's a song where the choir sings. But when you look at it, I think it actually means more than that. And it's more of a song of praise that we've all just received the Lord. And so at our church, the priest finishes giving out communion, then he sits down. There's a time of quiet prayer, and then we all stand. And then we start singing, "We know your presence, Lord, deep within," and we sing it one time seated, and then we all stand up, and then we sing it again together, and it's a goose pimple moment. It's actually unbelievable. Go ahead and sing it together again to have the whole community singing this one song about how they're so happy that we just received the Eucharist. And then the priest says, "Let us pray," and we do the communion prayer, post-communion prayer, and then the final blessing, and then we go out. Which usually you would do the prayer, and then they would, have announcements or whatever else. But it's worked out so much better to go ahead and have everybody have a time of quiet after we all receive communion, and then we sing out of communion. It's a beautiful moment, actually.
Mm-hmm. And so what's your creative process like? How do you write these?
The process changes depending on what's going on. I wish I could say, I always start with the lyrics first. If it's a psalm, I guess I always start with the lyrics first because you can't change the words. And that it proves to be very challenging when you get the psalms that are not set in any kind of poetic verse, and there's 8 lines and then 2 lines for the verse, and you kind of go, well, what am I going to do here musically? What I got to do 3 different songs for each verse, So that's an issue. Sometimes I'll take a specific prayer or something like that and then put it to music. Sometimes it's just a matter of something coming up like a seasonal theme like that, where we in the past we've done seasonal themes mostly for either like the 50th anniversary of the parish or the 30th anniversary of the parish. We come to the table for that. And then other times it's a Lenten one or an Advent one. So you're kind of commissioned to write something for the community about a certain idea. Be Not Afraid was one year, and that came from the new bishop that came in, and that was one of the first things that he talked about, that he kept using that scripture, "Be not afraid." And so we decided we would be in harmony with our new bishop, and that's what we used for our Lenten theme that year. And we used Dufford's "Be Not Afraid." We also used John Bell's "Don't Be Afraid," very beautiful song, a little short John Bell song that's just gorgeous, and that's from GIA. And then we also used something that I wrote called "I'm Always With You, Be Not Afraid." Mm. So it's a different take on that, the text of "Be Not Afraid."
Yeah, I think I saw that song on the list of songs, and that was another one I was hoping to get to, but didn't. Yeah. And so actually in the spirit of St. Francis, you wrote a song called "Make Our Lives a Prayer of Peace." And with St. Francis Day coming up on October 4th, what was your inspiration for that? Was it St. Francis or more than that?
Actually, that one is kind of an interesting story, because that came after going to church at a church that's closer to my house. I would go to daily mass there with a bunch of friends when I was younger, and that prayer, prayer for peace, was on the back of the missalette. And so it's from a refrain text based on a prayer of Pope Pius the 23rd. Mm. And the prayer is very cyclical, because it says, "Grant us, O Lord, peace in our days, peace in our hearts, peace in our families, peace in our country, peace among nations. Make our lives a prayer of peace for the world." And then the verses are from a little bit patterned after Micah. Let us act in justice and love tenderly and walk humbly with our God. You want to hear it?
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. Yes, it'd be wonderful.
Grant us, O Lord, peace in our days, peace in our hearts, peace in our families, peace in our country, peace among nations. Make our lives a prayer of peace for the world. Help us act in justice and to love tenderly, and to walk humbly with our God. Grant us, us, O Lord, peace in our days, peace in our hearts, peace in our families, peace in our country, peace among nations. Make our lives a prayer of peace for the world. Help us to forgive and to seek forgiveness. Help us rid ourselves of pride. Grant us, O Lord, peace in our days, peace in our hearts, peace in our families, peace in our country, peace among nations. Make our lives a prayer of peace for the world. Help us live more simply by accepting what we have. Give us everything we need. Grant us, O Lord, peace in our days, peace in our hearts, peace in our families, peace in our country, peace among nations. Make our lives a prayer of peace for the world. Help us be content and be faithful to your word. Guide our journey with your peace. Grant us, O Lord, peace in our days, peace in our hearts, peace in our family, peace in our country, peace among nations. Make our lives a prayer of peace for the world. Make our lives a prayer of peace for the world.
Oh, wow. That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Oh, wow. So if you want to check out his music, feel free to go to paulhillebrand.com or just YouTube him and find his work. It's wonderful stuff. And it's Hillebrand is Hillebrand. So,
That's right.
yeah. So thank you so much for being with us, Paul.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I look forward to the next time, whenever that is.